forest? What's a deer forest?
Feed the deer, ride the ponies, feed the deer and ride the train. Feed the deer, grab a hot dog, feed the deer and ride again. Ride a camel, feed a llama, talk to folks from nursery rhymes. Helicopters, cars and boat rides, shows and birds and real fun times. Feed the deer, ride and picnic, feed the deer, a day of fun.
What's a deer forest? A whole day of fun and memories. Deer Forest, off I-94 in Coloma, Michigan.
In 1894, the area of Paw Paw Lake and the villages of Watervliet and Coloma, Michigan nestled around it were named as the tourist destination of the 20th century by a Chicago area newspaper that had just recently invested heavily in a rail line extension from Chicago to Coloma. This led the area to becoming a booming resort destination for the wealthy Chicago elite. The boom would eventually bust, as today the population of both river cities is only about 3,511. At the tail end of its heyday, Deer Forest opened in 1949. With the popularity of nursery rhyme and Santa parks at the time, and its abundance of animals on opening day, it was a huge success. Through my research, it was most likely started by a local owner, but would change owners through the decades many times.
Is that what's happened to this park is it's always been owned by an outsider, minus maybe the first couple of owners. But probably in the last 30 years, it's been owned by an outsider, somebody in Chicago, that sucked the money right out of Deer Forest and would run off to Chicago and start other ventures and businesses with it.
We'll get back to him soon. Through its unique entertainment, including dog dancing, ponies walking under dogs, and this, Deer Forest captured the hearts and imaginations of all who attended. All was going well until...
It's a place known for up-close and personal experiences with animals, a place where families made memories, now under federal investigation.
And we're talking about Deer Forest in Coloma.
You want this? What?
Well, actually, we need to back up a bit. I remember visiting Deer Forest a lot in the 1990s. We had season passes, and it was my favorite place to visit. Our last trip was approximately 2002, and the park was on a noticeable spiral downward, with ticket prices already being slashed. I remember only one of the storybook machines still quietly functioning. While the park was in noticeable decline and ready for some TLC, instead it got cousins John S. Medica and John R. Medica, who purchased the park in 2004. Though its trouble seems to really have come in 2005 when a deer suffered a violent seizure while a guest watched in horror. Apparently deer go into seizures for one of two reasons: disease or infection, or more likely in this case, when they are overstressed by being handled by humans. This is when an already unpleased FDA began a full investigation. All approximately 140 deer were quickly removed from the park. During this investigation, I believe one of these cousins cut ties with the park, as going forward all ownership seems to be centered around a singular John Modica. This man. During the investigation of fall 2005, the South Bend Tribune reported John Medica let his USDA license to exhibit certain animals expire. This is undoubtedly because he knew he would be losing it anyways. See, the park could still operate without a license, but would no longer be able to receive grant money to help with animal care and feed, as well as no longer be able to display certain animals, most notably its Arctic fox.
Cute foxes smell. Oh, he's cute. He's cute. I like him. one looks a little mangy, but I like that one. He's cute.
Which sadly seems to have been placed in a state of limbo on property in a storage situation.
We got an Arctic fox that is not on display right now. We have a few other animals that aren't on display for whatever reason, and also the USDA, and waiting for the USDA licensing.
Apparently, Deer Forest was planned to be closed at the end of the 2009 season, though this apparently did not happen.
At Deer Forest in Coloma, Michigan, in September 20th, 2009. Deer Forest, today is the last day that Deer Forest Park is going to be open after 60 years.
Modica knew things were going downhill fast, as buildings were crumbling, fences were deteriorating, and no chance of government assistance was to come. So he did what all conmen of the 2010s did, and in 2012 took out a Craigslist ad to find a sucker to rent Deer Forest from him and run it themselves.
Is he a pecker?
It's probably a pecker.
Whole thing's in bad shape.
On May 1st, 2013, John Stolars and Amy Gadberry began to lease the park and began paperwork for USDA licensing for Deer Forest's exotic animal sanctuary. By June of 2014, Val Grims, Berry County's Director of Animal Control, said the park was much cleaner, the animals were in better shape, and the only issue was a donkey continuously walking out of the enclosure. Grims would later ticket him for 2 perpetually escaping donkeys, to which Stolars would say, "They always wander back." At this time, Stolars also reintroduced 18 fallow deer back into the park, though now only visible from a distance. Apparently all animals were now going to get new enclosures with plexiglass, and the petting feeding portion of the park would be no more, with its new sanctuary status in effect. Modica could not have found a better fall guy, and the reasons would soon be clear, as former park employee Mario Palmisano would bring Stolar's past back to haunt him.
In 2008, he pleaded guilty to writing a bad check in Canton, Missouri. Then in 2010 to defrauding secured creditors. Those are both misdemeanors. But in 2013, he pleaded guilty to not paying child support, a felony. According to court records, right now, Stolars owes more than $40,000 in back child support. Then in 2012, also in Missouri, the Attorney General there convicted him for transporting infectious waste without a license, dumping that waste, then abandoning it. A judge ordered Stolars to pay more than $26,000 in fines. Then in 2012, in Chandlerville, Illinois, Stolars left nearly a dozen dogs in kennels, going out of town for about a week. The state's attorney there charging him with 12 misdemeanors. He just pleaded guilty to 3 of those charges in March, including animal cruelty.
My ex-wife found out that I was out of town. I went to Indiana. So she started making all these phone calls and different things saying John abandoned his dogs, I don't know what to do.
These are pictures from a source close to the investigation. Stolars claims he hired 2 16-year-old boys to take care of the dogs, but conditions were so bad a vet had to put one of them down.
I pled guilty. It was cheaper and easier. $250 fine. Thank you.
Do you accept responsibility for what happened?
Maybe I should have been a little bit more proactive.
After that, Stolars moved here to Hobart, his hometown, to be with Gadberry, his girlfriend at the time. According to a Hobart Humane Society report from last August, police called about 2 of Stolars' horses in a road. Humane officers also found 10 thin puppies in a pen with no food or water, without shade, in 90-degree temperatures, and several other dogs inside the house. When officers went back a few days later to check on the animals, they and Stolars were gone. Then in Coloma, Berrien County Animal Control recently wrote him a ticket when 2 donkeys got loose. The USDA and Animal Control continue to receive complaints about him, some of which are unfounded.
Allegations he didn't follow through on business deals. Better Business Bureau gives him an F rating for not resolving complaints with customers in his dog training business. Stolars using his wife's last name, then switching back. And according to Stolars, the truth is, he's overwhelmed trying to fix someone else's mess.
A bunch of skinny animals, a bunch of a bunch of animals that lack vet care. There's no record of me anywhere ever abusing an animal. Did I go out of town at the wrong time with a crazy ex-wife? Yeah, I did. Should I have left more responsible adults in charge of my kennel? Absolutely. My trouble is probably with women more than it is the law.
Is he a pecker?
He's probably a pecker.
Palmasanto would go on to fight the township to have the park's zoning laws changed to get Stolars out.
Jennifer, people who don't like the man who moved here to run Deer Forest are trying to get the park's grandfathered zoning status reversed. Now, that status has allowed it to operate here as an animal park for the last 65 years.
Our goal is not to shut down the park. Township won't reveal or repeal the grandfathered clause, then there will be no enforcement, and he will be allowed to continue until hopefully the USDA finally shuts him down.
Palmisano says he made it his mission to get Stolars out.
He has had a multi-state criminal past and has come up here now without the funds to operate the place and is asking everybody else to bail him out.
Palmisano runs an anti-Deer Forest Facebook page. Palmisano claims the park's made several changes over the years that void the zoning status Deer Forest has had since it opened in 1949. He recently started an online petition to change it.
They have an agenda, and their agenda is to shut the park down. They don't care how they go at it.
David and Laura Gibson started a second petition Friday to keep the zoning at Deer Forest as is. This is a non-issue. We are 100% compliant on all issues per city officials. This is a hidden agenda by Mario Palmisano, and he is using the media to push the cause.
Stolars would counter that Palmasanto was only doing this so he could buy the park. I'm inclined to believe this, as it was reported early that Palmasanto runs a local alligator sanctuary.
Some animals are still at Deer Forest. When Coloma Township Police and Berrien County Animal Control went in today to check on the animals, a man who runs an alligator sanctuary picked up 3 alligators he donated to Deer Forest.
Nearly a year after this, upon the park's closure, it was reported that a local alligator sanctuary had finally come to pick up their alligators at Deer Forest. Why would you leave your alligators with a man if you genuinely believe him to be an animal abuser? This makes no sense.
Is he a pecker?
He's probably a pecker.
This makes little sense, though. If Palmasanto wanted Deer Forest for what it was, new zoning laws would make the land attractive only to condo developers.
Ours.
All of this infighting may have stayed under the radar if it wasn't for pictures of a malnourished horse on the premises, putting a living face to the deterioration all around.
When he saw the horse, he's like, "Grandma, that puppy got owies," and he was so upset he just started crying. And how do I explain to a 2-year-old that it's not okay?
Peters took this picture of a horse on the property so thin she could count its ribs. Another appeared to have open wounds.
They should have been somewhere healing and quiet, not having people touching and poking them all the time. It was sad.
Remember this skinny horse? Stolars says a woman dropped off Ruby and her foal last year, a few days before the park opened. Their owner could not take care of them.
She was on death's doorstep.
This is Ruby now. Stolars says she's an example of the direction Deer Forest is headed.
Our staff and our money right now is focused on general animal care and providing them the best environment we possibly can.
Though I agree Ruby should not have been out for human contact, lack of adequate fencing may have limited where the last-minute addition could be housed. Now, with all eyes on the park, its troubling past soon would capture the attention of activists in the media, creating confusion about when and who was to blame.
Story story today, which is that the USDA has filed a federal complaint against Deer Forest in Coloma, Michigan.
Yeah, and we found out another investigation is already underway.
This complaint, filed about a month ago in Washington, D.C., lists dozens of violations inspectors found here between May 2011 and July 2013.
The complaint was not for Deer Forest Exotic Animal Sanctuary, but it was in fact for Deer Forest Amusements, which was John Modica's, so the charge is against him and it would not be against the new owners of the park.
John Modica, a Chicago man who hired Stolars and Gadberry in 2013 to turn the park around. Modica still owns the land. Stolars and Gadberry lease it and say they took the park over 4 months ago.
Nothing's changed, it's all the same, just adding more allegations and more problems.
I'm here as an animal advocate. I have visited Deer Forest myself and have seen the atrocious conditions of the inside, let alone the conditions of the habitats of the animals. They're just not acceptable.
After news broke about the USDA complaint, 2 cars drove around the park with anti-Deer Forest signs.
They don't see the other side of the story, and there's always 2 sides to it. Yeah, the past is the past, but it should be let go, and it's time to move on and help the park.
It's not the past, it's still here. It's still a problem.
The process would have been much easier had John Modica not left us with such a headache as far as poor animal care. USDA is concerned going forward who ultimately is responsible for the animals and what's going to happen. It presents a very sticky situation for them that John Modica still currently owns the property and Deer Forest Exotic Animal Sanctuary only leases it. So we have to ensure them through their investigation that John Modica has nothing to do with this business, that the animals are 100% in the care of Deer Forest Exotic Animal Sanctuary, and that he is only the landowner and that is it. That is, the investigation is only to make sure that he has nothing to do with this park going forward.
They licked my hands clean!
Oh good, now you don't have to use the sanitizer.
What becomes confusing is who is actually caring for the animals, as both Modica and Stolars are not legally allowed to. Modica seems indefinitely, while Stolars is to have no contact with animals for 1 year after his dog kennel plea, March 2014.
Trouble tonight for the man running Deer Forest in Coloma. Police in Cass County, Illinois confirmed they have a warrant out for John Stolars.
In March, Jennifer, an Illinois judge sentenced Stolars to pay restitution in that animal cruelty case. According to court documents, he had to appear before a judge August 6th if he hadn't paid. When Stolars didn't show up, the judge issued the arrest warrant, and there is new concern tonight that Deer Forest may be in jeopardy. He told me the arrest warrant is, quote, a bunch of garbage.
I decided to look into what marketing Stolars was actually doing.
He says his wife is running the place. He does the marketing.
The official Deer Forest YouTube channel, featuring 3 videos, the first, September 16, 2013, being an advertisement for a cool-looking haunted house attraction. It is oddly unclear if this is adults only or family friendly, something that will be even more confusing soon. The third, an odd advertisement featuring Stolars voicing over a Lion King soundtrack with some poorly shot park photos mixed with stock images. It is important to note this video premiered February 23, 2014, less than 3 months before the news investigation featuring the park.
We are one of the country's finest petting zoos and sanctuaries. Deer Forest will educate, entertain, and inspire you. Visit over 100 animals and specialized habitats spanning 32 wooded acres. Please take the time to read our information sheets and learn about each and every one of them. Explore educational wildlife shows, fun attractions, and enticing special events.
The second video, posted October 4th, 2013, is the most disturbing video I have ever seen. There is sadly not enough time to show the full magnitude of this creepy video, but I will show the beginning and some selected clips that are extra weird.
Hello and welcome to Deer Forest Fright Night 2013. Although we want everyone to have a fun time tonight, safety is our #1 concern. So please keep your arms and legs inside the moving vehicle at all times.
3 college students shared an apartment. One night, they all got drunk and played games. They all started telling ghost stories. All at once, they all called Bloody Mary. The girl near the light switch finally turned it on. When the mirror left was a bloody handprint. The blood dripped. The girls held on to one another, crying and begging not to be killed. Please don't kill us.
Thankfully, only 15 viewers have been subjected to this. Random photos of actual park guests, children, as well as animals, photos later used in Stolars' Lion King video, as well as some of the world's first memes, photos of someone else's mini golf course, and of course the decades-old logo. This is just plain creepy. I cannot imagine finding myself in this video set to a creepy Bloody Mary story. It is suffice it to say, Stolars' talents were not in marketing. Years later, October 2017, Ruin Road snuck in, capturing the remnants of the Barn of Nightmares. Hold on. Here is me and my sister with the same gorilla exactly 20 years prior. This is when things get extra confusing as Stolars begins to personally sell the animals. The fact that no one knows how many or where they went seems to contradict the nonprofit transparency.
This post on a Facebook page supporting Deer Forest says if things don't turn around in the next month, the park may have to close down and will probably be for sale again next year. And some of the animals have been sold. We hope and pray they found great new homes.
It all comes down to the people that are against it, are pushing him to do that. I mean, they can't get anybody there. Everybody reads the negative stuff about it and never sees the good stuff about it. You got a choice. You either sell the animals or close the park. You know, he sold a few of the animals, hoping to keep the park open.
But they're not sure how many or where those animals are now.
There's no way to know. I mean, I know he took the animals to an auction, and we can only hope that they went to a good home.
We don't want them sold to a meat processor. That's, bad end result of his game plan.
I also asked Stolars about animals being sent to the slaughterhouse, and he said it's not true, but believe whatever you're going to believe.
It is unknown when the rides were removed. I remember the roller coaster not working my last visit years prior. I cannot imagine the aging rides who sat in dirt fields for decades would be worth much. Did Modica sell the rides after the deer seizure? Was that the closure after the 2009 season we heard about? If so, this would explain the ownership's profitability ability, which we will see the huge discrepancies in soon. Or did Stolars sell the rides in the beginning of his total park liquidation?
Until Deer Forest does the animals perfectly, there will be no intention of bringing any kind of rides back. Once we can look at this park and say there's nothing new that needs to be added to serve the animals correctly, then that point will come. That point's very, very far away.
But first,
new legal problems tonight for the man running Deer Forest in Berrien County. Our fact finder team uncovered court documents claiming John Stolars and his wife, Amy Gadberry, owe nearly $17,000 in back rent. A Coloma Land Company filed that claim at the Berrien County Courthouse 2 weeks ago. We also found a judge recently ordered Stolars to pay a South Bend veterinarian more than $1,000 because of an unpaid vet bill.
We just want the animals to be in the best situation that they can be in, and we didn't feel that it was there.
Someone from the animal activist group Himes belongs to reportedly approached park manager John Stolars yesterday, offering to take the animals off his hands.
I was told that he's asking money for them and that he wants them to be sold before Friday or by Friday. Or he would be taking them to auction.
The activist group says Stolars wants $2,000 for the animals, so Himes set up a crowdfunding account to try and get that money. They'd raised more than $800 by late this afternoon.
I'm willing to do whatever they need to help in that way.
Elizabeth Termeer agreed to take the animals if needed. She runs Blessing's Animal Farm in Coloma. Even though they found a place for the animals remaining at the park, the question still remains, will Stolars actually turn them over if the group raises that money?
My fear is that he'll flee and that the animals will be stuck and nobody can access them because technically he does own them.
2 weeks later, approximately 20 animals were sold to an activist group and dropped off at Blessing's Animal Farm just down the road, after raising the $2,000 to purchase them from Stolars. Unpaid bills leave where the money from the animals went unanswered. Keeping tabs on Stolars begins to become more difficult.
Confusion today at a local animal park. Animal control officers and others believed the man who runs Deer Forest in Coloma Township may have skipped town, but later they found out that's not true. He apparently was out of town at a funeral.
Before we get to the next part, with no coverage, Deer Forest would have its last day September 1st, Labor Day of 2014, with no rides, few animals, and faded nursery rhymes trying to be heard for the very last time. The gates would remain shut after 65 years.
Nice. This is nice. Thank you for taking me here.
You're welcome.
I'm loving this.
Questions of where the money was going seem not to be asked, but where it wasn't going soon would be clear.
Their landlord took them to court, and a judge says both sides are at fault.
Yeah, but the troubled couple running Deer Forest in Coloma Township are the ones who have to pay. Today, the Berrien County judge said John Stolars and Amy Gadberry owe more than $13,000 in unpaid rent and bills. Kelly, Stolars and Gadberry have 10 days to pay that money.
And Jennifer, if they don't, they will be evicted. But the couple told the judge today they're ready to get out.
Anything to say about what happened in there? That's what I have to say to you.
We're not interested in staying there in the slightest bit. We just want to get this over with and move on with our lives.
The couple represented themselves in the civil suit.
We wanted to give this community back something they haven't had for a long time. And we gave it everything, every dime we had out of our pocket.
Gadberry and Stolars testified they signed a lease with Deer Forest owner John Modica in March, but admitted they never paid a penny of the $3,000 monthly rent or insurance bills.
His actions in prior years killed us. We had no chance.
The couple said Modica knew Deer Forest was not in good shape when he handed it over, and Modica's history with the United States Department of Agriculture prevented them from getting government licenses to run the park. Gadberry said lack of those licenses prevented grant money she counted on.
What went wrong with this whole operation?
They wound up with a lot of opposition from a couple of people locally that didn't like them because of their past history. Things blew up pretty bad.
And Modica says, though, he is optimistic that under new ownership, the right ownership, it can.
WSBT reported Modica testified under oath that when he and his cousin ran the park, it made between $75,000 and $100,000 per season. I find this completely unbelievable, as tickets had already been slashed as far back as 2002. Stolars testified in 2014 that the park only made approximately $11,000 with less than 20,000 visitors. Stolars also previously stated Deer Forest lost approximately $50,000 in 2013. Stolars stated ticket prices since he took over went from $10 to $6.50 to $3.25 and free on Wednesdays, all in just one season. Providing feed and maintenance would contribute to the bottom line, but something does not add up. He took no pay for the first 6 months there, presumably in 2013, while working as an apprentice plumber, while Gadberry sold commercial real estate to make a living.
Well, the deadline came and went an hour ago, and the Berrien County couple that recently operated Deer Forest Animal Park did not pay thousands of dollars a judge ordered them to.
Upon the eviction, all 30 remaining animals were sent to Blessings Animal Farm, as they were now all apparently abandoned.
Sorry, little girl.
The public was asked to sponsor an animal's food and vet care costs for a week or a month. It was approximately $2,000 per animal per month. Those wishing to adopt animals would have to go through a vigorous check. Deer Forest may be over, but our story is not. On June 30th, 2015, the Kalamazoo Gazette reported Modica put the land and all remaining assets up for auction. With a starting bid of $75,000, it received 62 bids with a high bid of $150,000. The land was valued at $245,700, with 2014 property taxes of $9,381. Apparently this deal did not go through though, as sadness again befalls the forest. On the night of April 23, 2020, at 9:58 p.m., calls began to come in of a barn fire at the abandoned park. North Berrien Fire Rescue was soon on the scene, but had trouble getting through the locked gate. It took approximately 45 minutes to control the fire, and the structure was a total loss. It is unknown which structure it was, but I believe it was the barn where the haunted house was. Crews cleared the scene around 1 a.m. The fire was under investigation, but foul play does not seem to be a factor. The current landowner listed as John Modica, but local entrepreneur Blair Strumble would soon champion to change that. In late 2020, Strumble began to try to raise the $200,000 to purchase the property and return Deer Forest to its former glory. This was the first part of a reported $1 million planned revival. Sadly, in September, his campaign only raised $4,402 in a crowdfunding campaign. This would seemingly be the end of all hopes by Strumble. I would have enjoyed one of these Save Deer Forest hoodies, but sadly its link as well as all other supporting swag have been disabled. Strumble even went as far as to create this new sign to welcome guests to the new Deer Forest. This is where our story ends today, but so many wonderful people made this place so special for countless more, and that's what's important.
Feed the deer, ride a pony, feed the deer, ride again. Feed the deer, grab a hot dog, feed the deer, ride again. Ride a camel, feed a lamb, and talk to folks with nursery rhymes. Feed the deer, ride a pony, feed the deer, a day of fun.
What's the Deer Forest?
A whole day of fun.
But whosever fault the park's eventual demise was, one thing's for sure.
Is he a pecker?
He's probably a pecker.
Birds and fish and worms eat people. Fish eat worms. Birds eat worms and fish. People eat birds and fish and worms.